Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Carla and Krabby Show. It is week 9 of the college football season, and I am ready once again to embrace the beauty that is college football, the joy that is college football. That and the Yankees knocked the Guardians out of the ALCS, I think, in Game 5. So, it's fine. We're ready to get things back on track. And Carla, I promise I won't be talking about baseball anymore this year.
I appreciate that. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
We missed you.
It was a short detour, but one that I was happy to have. AJ is joining us as well. AJ, how are you doing?
Hi, we're doing great.
Okay.
It was we watched a lot of football last week. We said things that were correct.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember all of them, but I do remember specifically calling out some games and saying you should pay attention to these, and then they were great. So got that going for us.
Oh, we made some correct picks as well. We didn't do anything that's terribly wrong. I don't think. But
no, so we're gonna be just as good this week.
I was gonna say, so this week is going to suck. I'm just
our friends in Austin might beg to differ with that assessment.
Well, yeah, there is that. That's on them though. I mean, it was there for the ticket.
We can only be right so much.
That's true.
I think is what we're saying.
I like it.
That is what I'm saying. Anyway, we have another long list of fun stuff for you guys to put your eyeballs on this weekend. But before we look ahead, as we generally do, let's take a look back. And Carla, we'll start with you. What stood out from last weekend that you wanted to mention today?
Yeah, so I think I didn't disclose last week on the show is that I was actually traveling last week. I was in lovely Cincinnati, Ohio for a conference, and spent most of my day Saturday in the car driving back.
Okay.
So my actual eyeballs on college football were not much. However, my earbuds on college football was quite substantial.
Wouldn't they call those earballs? If you're doing eyeballs, wouldn't they be earballs?
Eardrums.
Eardrum. Okay.
Eardrums, my ears on college football were quite substantial because I had 6 hours to listen to college football in the car.
Yes.
And so because the Learfield Blitz didn't start on SiriusXM until later in the afternoon for whatever reason, which was,
I don't know why they've been doing that. It makes me crazy.
It was annoying. Yeah. So Sirius, please fix that.
Yeah.
So I ended up listening to the home radio call of the Indiana Nebraska game. And let me tell you how much of a delight that was, because Don Fisher and Buck Sewell, I actually had to go look to see who was on the call. That's the home radio team for the Indiana Hoosiers football. They were in just as much disbelief as to what they were seeing and how good the Hoosiers were as the rest of us are this year. And it was an absolute delight to listen to with this team is just remarkable. This team just can't, they just know how to play the game. They just yes, folks, this is real. Indiana is up. It was just, they emoted with their voices exactly what we were all thinking.
That's fantastic.
And it was just a delight to listen to. And likewise, the Miami Louisville game was probably as exciting to listen to as it was to watch. However, it was funny. The only radio call I could find was the Miami call. And they kept calling it Louisville, which your Miami is showing.
Yeah, that's not.
Oh, sorry, it's pronounced Miami.
Right. But I will say what was kind of fun was that I actually drove past L&N Stadium during the fourth quarter of that game. And so I was driving down 65 and drove right past the stadium. So I rolled my window down to see if I could hear anything in the stands at the time. And I couldn't really get a good look at the stands, but that game was fun to listen to. I think it was 97 total points scored in that game.
Yes.
Otherwise, the follow-up from last week's show, Middle did actually close out that game last week against Kennesaw. But dang, it was ugly. It was super, super ugly. And now the Blue Raiders this game will probably be over by the time you're hearing this, but on Wednesday night, Blue Raiders go to Jacksonville State. And they're like a 21-point dog in that game.
Oh.
And this is the game that they want to win because Jacksonville State last year was the team that embarrassed them in the second half with that absolute.
That's right.
That the game that I witnessed, they were up huge in the first half and then collapsed in the second half. So this is the game that they've all kind of had circled that they want revenge here. Whew, it's gonna be a tough road to hoe, I think. So we'll see how they do there. And then finally, yeah, the nightcap. What happened in Austin? I did not see that coming.
Nope.
I did not see the Georgia defense stepping up the way that it did, absolutely dominating the Horns offensive line. And they held Texas to fewer than 40 yards in the first half.
Yeah.
Forced a bunch of mistakes, and then after, trying to figure all that out. And then after the game, Kirby gives his best Saban impersonation with the nobody believed in us. We were all everybody on game day picked against us. And it was like, okay, so now I see how they played this, right? That's how they played it in the locker room, was that we're the dogs here. Nobody believes in us. They played the Bama card. And it worked.
Yeah.
And it absolutely worked. It got that team going. And I could talk a lot about what happened after the game and particularly in the ranking, because we're recording this a day early on Monday. And so AP rankings have only been out for 24 hours. And so Georgia jumps my number 3 Nittany Lions, even with one loss on the season. And at first, I'm not going to lie, I was irked. I was like, no, you have a loss, Georgia. And then as I started to think about it, I kind of came to terms with it and said, okay, if you want to be number 2, Penn State, you got to go out and prove it.
Yeah.
They were off last week. They have not looked good in the first half of any game they have played this year. And that's the exact opposite of what Georgia did on Saturday night. So Penn State's going to have their opportunity this week and next week to make a claim to being a top 5 team. You got to go out and do it, Nits. So as much as I've seen a lot of people complaining about why is Georgia ranked over an unbeaten Penn State team, the eyeball test.
Yeah. That's how I always look at this, stuff like that. There's a way to fix it, and that is to keep winning. And
that's the win.
If you do, you'll get there. It will all sort itself out.
So that's my recap from the weekend.
Okay. AJ, how was your football watching weekend?
It was delightful.
Okay.
Watched a bunch of kind of random games, kind of popped around. The North Texas Memphis game was just as bananas as I said it was going to be. The fun index it was a 67-point fun index, and it missed by 30 points. It was under by 30 points. Okay. North Texas held the ball for exactly 21 seconds and scored 14 points off of 2 75-yard touchdowns. The fireworks factory got off real fast. Okay. Finally, the game settled down and it turned into like an actual back and forth game, but it was effectively just like, all right, we're going to score. Now you're going to score. Now you're going to score. Now you're going to score. It was like 21-14 at the end of the first quarter. It was delightful. And then I had that up against Georgia, Texas, and just watching Texas get eaten alive by Georgia. It wasn't even like a little bit. They got fully eaten alive. And I think the other big thing here is Georgia, by the way, was opened as favorites in this game. And then the line pushed it over to Texas. So the betting, the money went and pushed it towards Texas. So I can buy some of Kirby's like, nobody believed in us. But the opening line was Georgia. So we did believe in you at one point. I think the biggest thing that Georgia has over Penn State is they beat a number 1 team in their house. Handily. And Penn State's best win is a 21-7 win at home against Illinois, who was number 19 at the time. And Illinois is number 20 as of right now. So I think this is it's really just this is a pure resume test, and you can be mad about, one loss versus not, but Georgia's only loss is to Alabama, and they almost came back and won that one. So I think that's really where that is. Also, if you want to be mad, Iowa State, BYU, Miami, and Indiana and Pitt and Army and Navy are all also undefeated and behind Georgia. So hey, this stuff is going to happen.
It works itself out. It'll all be
It'll work
okay.
itself out, right?
It does.
Georgia still has plenty of fun on their schedule. They still have Florida putting 48 points on Kentucky. That's fun,
Yeah.
right? The team that same Kentucky team that dragged Ole Miss down in the mud and beat them with experience. Yeah, put 48 on Kentucky. Florida still has to play Ole Miss and Tennessee and Florida in the next 3 weeks. So we still have actually, no, sorry. Georgia's on a bye before Florida, and then they play Florida at Ole Miss and then home against Tennessee in 3 consecutive weeks. Trust me, there will be plenty of other opportunities for Georgia to stumble.
Yep.
I think this is where the interesting part of the 12-team playoff comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Bama's still not out, right? And we always joked every single year that like, ooh, Bama's somehow going to get in no matter what. They're going to put Bama in, and every year I'd be like, they're not going to put Bama in because of reason X, reason Y. And the years that was actually the case was fair. Yeah. This year, Alabama could still, as a 2-loss team, still make the playoff.
Yeah,
I still doubt it at this point. I still have my doubts. It's going to take some shenanigans at the top of the SEC. Bama makes the title game and looks good in the process all the way up into that point. And if they win, they're in. If they don't win, they're out. Yeah. But as of right now, Bama is potentially not going to make it. The other thing that again, we said last week, Miami will continue to fa, and they have yet to foe. And they did it again against Louisville. Yeah. Louisville did Miami just all day long. Fa la la la. And they just it's almost the Shutdown Fullcast referred to Miami as impervious to losing, even when they try.
That's
like they just can't do it. And the
related
rest of their
LSU.
There is that.
And you have Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse left on the Miami schedule. Mm-hmm. All of those games would be hilarious if Miami lost them, but I don't see it. And that means that you're setting up for a Clemson Miami ACC championship game, which should be a banger because Clemson looks like they're out for blood now.
Yes, they do.
They got the brakes beat off of them in week 1 and have since turned everybody else into paste. Yes. So I'm interested to see what happens here. Mm-hmm. We've got an interesting ACC. We've got an interesting SEC. We've got an interesting SEC right now. Mm-hmm. Texas A&M looks good. There's a lot of. This is a fairly chaotic season, and I think unlike 2007, I think we're going to get not like, oh, these are the clear number 1 and number 2 teams playing for the national title at the end of the year, all this chaos, and here's 1 and 2. I think you're going to get some shenanigans, and it's going to lead to a weird playoff and or a weird national title game, and I'm very excited for that.
Hope so.
All you need to know about this year's season is that Indiana and Vanderbilt are ranked, and Michigan is not.
Navy and Army are still once again ranked.
Yes.
Fantastic. And continue to absolutely annihilate everything in the American and continue to set up for the dumbest outcome, which is an American Navy or an Army Navy American championship game on campus at one of those, which is going to be I want this in the most possible. I want this in the deepest way. I'm setting aside every possible time to watch that because it's going to be it's going to be insane. Mm-hmm. But then they go play what is a literal meaningless playoff meaningless. I want to be very, very clear about this playoff meaningless Army Navy game and asking some Army Navy fans about this. The actual Army Navy game is what counts as the Army Navy game this year. It is not, if they make the championship game, that is not the Army Navy game. That is an Army Navy game. So I just want to preface all that with
change the article. It's the article game. Versus
the article bowl. There it is.
Yep. Article bowl for the American championship.
Oh man, that's fantastic. I'm still hopeful that could happen. You guys have covered most of the ground that you covered the big stuff. As you guys know, I am A, older, and B, grew up with the Big Ten. And so my ancient Big Ten brain is struggling to process bizarro Big Ten conference this season, causing me a little stress. But if we're talking about, like, you look at Indiana, Nebraska, if you're talking about those programs in their historical context, um, the score Indiana 56, Nebraska 7 makes no sense. Zero, none.
Yeah.
No,
Um,
it doesn't
I,
make sense last year. You didn't even
no,
need to go
it
back
doesn't.
into
It doesn't.
history. It
It
doesn't make
doesn't.
sense last year.
It means I'm less concerned about the Huskers who come to Columbus this weekend. But I have to be, I got to be seriously concerned about Indiana, who come to Columbus the week before the Michigan game,
Yeah.
which feels like a total freaking trap game to me.
Trap.
And while none of us are surprised about Illinois beating Michigan last weekend, when you, again, historical context, it's like, how did this happen? Side note, Illinois' retro uniforms, the leather helmet thing, they were fantastic.
They were.
They were fantastic. Um,
I don't know about that.
I love them.
All right, here's the problem. They actually did a very good job with the paint on the helmet. They
Mhm,
actually looked good.
mhm.
The problem is other schools are going to try to do some sort of throwback silly helmet uniform, and it's going to look stupid, but it's going to be Illinois' fault.
That's on the other schools. The
That's fair.
Illinois pulled it off.
They
And
did.
Bert has that team looking like his old Wisconsin teams.
Mhm.
Not to
By
the
the way,
same level yet. Yes.
speaking of the Big Ten,
Hmm?
you know who didn't stub their toe this week on a little trip to West Lafayette?
Who did not do
Uh,
that?
that, that was Oregon.
Yeah, they did fine.
Goes in 35-0. Didn't even look
Eh,
like they broke
no
a
big deal.
sweat.
Um,
You could do that. They went, oh wait, you could just do that. I don't know why you guys thought this was such a problem. You guys should go to Arizona. Try that. I don't know. Seems way harder.
if 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 you're looking for, so Bert is turning things around in Illinois. Um, and uh, I again, Illinois being good is an odd thing. If you're looking for normalcy, perhaps the place to look, Carla, is Wisconsin, where Luke
Yep.
Figel seems to have settled in his team into a decent groove. They found a future tailback, so they're in good shape. But that's not been the case in recent years, for maybe even like the last decade. And then the Wolverines, and I can't let this go unnoticed. Unranked, 500 in the conference. They're actually favored to beat Sparty in Ann Arbor on Saturday night. I'd be really tempted to take Michigan State in that game, but that is not a game that we're going to pick. AJ is going to tell us about some games that in the G5 and After Dark and whatever else he decides we should be paying attention to in his Group of Five After Dark report. AJ, what you got for us
It's
this week?
time.
It is time.
It's time. We got like a tiny rivalry week. Like
Okay,
a little baby. We got a
we
little
like we
baby
like
rivalry week
we
going
like
on.
that.
I'm gonna start though in the American. This is not a rivalry game. This game should just be fun. We got Tulane going to Denton, Texas to play North Texas. They of the 21 seconds, 14 points. Spread on this game, Tulane's favored by 8. Fun index is a very healthy 66.5.
Mhm.
North Texas has a very, very, very good offense, and Chandler Morris is putting up stupid numbers. Like, I don't want to say New York numbers, but he's got 2,400 yards and 23 touchdowns and 8 picks. Like, he's having himself a little season.
Mhm.
North Texas can't stop a stiff breeze. So it's kind of one of those like Texas Tech situations where they're going to score a million points and they
Mhm.
have to try and score more than you. That's it.
Right.
That's the entire
Mhm.
name of their game. Tulane has looked solid this year. They're
Mhm.
not Willie Fritz going to the Sugar Bowl, but they have looked very, very solid this year. Their only
Yeah.
losses were to a very good Kansas State team
Mhm.
and an absolutely awful Oklahoma team. But they've looked very good since then.
Mhm.
They got right against Louisiana, and since then have only given up 40 points in 3 games while scoring. Hold on, I need to do math here. 140 points.
Okay.
So they're 140-40 in their last 3 games. They're doing okay.
Mhm.
And they're setting up for like their next 3 games are at North Texas, Charlotte, and Temple. Like that's not a tough road,
No.
which sets up for November 16th at Navy, Tulane at Navy, the wave against the boats. I'm very excited for that game now.
There's
And then
potential for excellent t-shirts right there. That's gotta
yes.
be something.
And so
Home
I
field,
think,
get on that.
Yeah.
yeah, home field. Actually, no, I already made this picture. Go to the Sickos Committee account, look up the Tulane Angry Kanagawa wave.
Okay.
That was
We will-
me. That's my
we will-
fault. Sorry,
We will
everybody.
do that. We will do that.
But Tulane 5-2, North Texas 5-2. I think this should be a fantastic game. I feel like Tulane gets the win here and continues to roll on. North Texas puts up a valiant effort. This game's gonna have so many points. Give me North Texas. Carla, who you got here?
You know my affinity for the Mean Green this year, so my brain says everything you said is correct about that Tulane defense, and they're probably going to win this game. But I'm going North Texas.
Yeah, I like
Hmm.
that.
Just a little teeny bit of defense will make the difference here, and Tulane will win on the road. Little teeny, little teeny bit of defense.
Just as a treat.
Yeah. And a moose boosh.
I'm sorry.
That's my second French reference in 2 weeks. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what I'm doing.
Honestly, I had a moose touche poosh in my brain as some sort of like French football play. Anyways, you could write that down.
That would be amusing.
3:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. We're going to the MAC because it's rivalry week. It's Toledo and Bowling Green, baby. The Toledo outside of the glass bowl, which is their stadium, there is a rocket.
Yes,
there is
on a pedestal.
It is,
this
is one of my favorite things in all of college football.
Yes,
it is said to be pointed at Bowling Green's 50-yard line. If you look at Google Earth, it's not. It's off to the. It points a little too far to the north for that to be the case. But I'm imagining that Toledo has some sort of guidance in these rockets, and they're putting it right at the 50-yard line of Bowling Green. It's hate week in Toledo. Toledo's favored by 2.5. The fun index is a light 47.5. I got to take the Rockets at home here. It's a rivalry game. They're going to get up. The Rockets, Toledo's very, very good. I think Bowling Green makes this way spicier. That's why the spread is only 2.5. But I think Bowling Green makes this spicy, but Toledo gets the win. Crappy, who you got?
I have been, and Carla would probably back me up here. I've been impressed with Bowling Green this season. And Toledo is not the Toledo that we've become accustomed to over the past couple of years. I think they're at 2 consecutive MAC championship game titles. There's something that does not feel the same for the Rockets, and I'm gonna pick Bowling Green to pull off a minor upset, but an upset nonetheless in the Glass Bowl.
Yeah, the Glass Bowl is a really tough place to play. Having it you wouldn't think so, but having been in the Glass Bowl when I was in high school, like the way the sound just kind of like hovers in there is really kind of fascinating, the dynamics of that particular stadium. So it's going to be loud, and it's, for a rivalry game. But yeah, I'm with Crappy here. I remember that Bowling Green game a little bit too well. And this is a Bowling Green offense that is tough to stop. And if Toledo's defense isn't ready, Bowling Green's gonna sneak out this win on the road. So, out of pure memory for me, I will say Bowling Green.
By the way, the Glass Bowl also the home to the American played games of the Italian American Football League, which is not a football league of Italian Americans. It's the American Football League of Italy. And every year they play their championship game. They alternate each year. Last year was in Italy. The year before was in Toledo, and it will be in Toledo again this year, I believe. So, yeah, they play it. They play it back and forth.
I was not aware.
There's somebody who used to coach Baylor who's a coach in that league. So we'll just, it's kind of gross a little bit.
Okay.
But he did lose the championship, and it was fun for everybody.
It would be.
But hey, you could watch Italian American football later.
We're gonna when you come up with a line for that game, let us know. We'll pick it.
We should. It's the problem is the championship game is in July, so we would have to do like a whole
Oh,
special summer episode upon the Italian American Football League.
we have done dumber things.
I mean,
This is true.
if you want us to preview the Italian American Football League championship game, drop us a line. Just comment on the Substack. Drop us a comment.
That'd be perfect.
Otherwise, mind your business. But that's the line. So we'll go there. Mountain West, Friday night, 10:30 p.m. CBSSN, the network of what?
Champions.
That's right. The network of champions. Speaking of championships, the Mountain West is somewhat early on the line because UNLV hosts Boise State. It's a rematch of last year's Mountain West championship game, which was also in Las Vegas. And UNLV came out and did not play well, and Boise State won with their interim coach, who then became their full-time head coach, and he's back for revenge, I guess. Boise's favored by 2.5, and they've got Ashton Jeanty, and nothing has changed. He literally stands in place. Have you guys ever watched him like pre-play? You ever seen what he does pre-play?
I don't know that I have.
So you know how most players like they get down, they bend their knees a little bit, and they kind of like get ready for the snap. He stands there like a maniac, stands straight up and down, and just like go look up. There's a compilation of him just like in the backfield. He's just standing there like he's just waiting for snacks to come by. And then they snap the ball and he immediately turns into a murder machine running back. It's amazing. Right. It's also kind of terrifying. Like as a defense, when you just see a guy just kind of standing there like, I'm coming. He's going to come get you. UNLV has played out of their minds this year, even with a quarterback deciding to forego the rest of the season due to NIL non-payments. They just picked up and kept going. I still got to take the Broncos here. It is hard for me to pick against the Broncos now, given they took Oregon to the wire, and they have looked great in every game since then. Ashton Jeanty's on an absolute tear. He currently has 1,248 yards on 126 carries, so he is just shy of 10 yards a carry right now, and has 17 touchdowns.
That is legitimately insane.
This is a reminder. It is week 9. This isn't like, oh, he had like one really good game. No. He's had 9 good games. He's out of his mind. And the only people, in my mind, the only reason that Travis Hunter is getting any Heisman love over him is because Travis Hunter is playing 2 different positions. Yeah. Other than that, like, no, it's Ashton Jeanty's Heisman, and we're all just waiting for him to show up in New York. He'll probably run there. Give me Boise State to win here. Crappy, who you got?
I gotta stick with the hot tailback and say Boise's gonna win this on the road.
Yeah, I'm the same. Somebody's got to show us that they can stop him. Yeah. And let me tell you one thing for sure here. If Boise makes the playoff as the Mountain West or as the Group of 5 representative, nobody is going to want to play Boise State in the playoff. No, absolutely nobody. Broncos win this one in Vegas.
No part of that.
We're going to stay here in the Mountain West because we have an actual rivalry game, 8 p.m. on True TV. Again, find that on your dial. It's right now. If you go look for it, it'll just say "Impractical Jokers" over and over again.
It's easy to find.
So, San Jose State traveling down to Fresno State. This is the Battle of the Valley. This place for an actual trophy is a gigantic V. A delightful trophy game. Okay. Fresno's favored by 4.5. The fun index is 54.5. I don't know what to make of Fresno this year. Like they have the same quarterback. They got Mikey Keene, the same quarterback as last year, but he has 8 touchdowns to 9 picks. That's not a good ratio. That's not where you really want to be as Fresno State quarterback. They have looked messy at times. San Jose State has played really solid football all year. I'm not surprised. They're coached by Kenny Amanalolo. It is actually more surprising that they're doing a lot more without running the option because he specifically decided not to. I think San Jose State goes into Fresno and comes out with a win and a trophy. Carla, who you got?
Oh boy. Sure, San Jose. Why not? I don't know. I also have not been impressed with Fresno, but I don't know a ton about San Jose State. So I'm, sure, San Jose.
I have not been impressed with Fresno. this season. It does not seem like a little like Toledo. They don't seem quite like the normal Fresno State Bulldogs that we are accustomed to seeing. Um, yeah, I'll pick San Jose State to take home the big V.
The big V. By the way, San Jose State has lost by a grand total. They have two losses after a grand total of 9 points. They lost by two in double overtime to Washington State, that insane game that went 54-52, and they
Hmm.
lost to Colorado State
Yes.
two weeks ago
Okay.
uh, by a touchdown. So
Okay.
I think San Jose State. I think this is where they can like really turn the season to the next level and do something special here.
Okay.
We're gonna go to the Sun Belt. Sun
Mhm.
Belt's on a weird week. All the good teams playing the not good teams in the Sun Belt. So there's not a ton to preview there. What I do want to preview though is at 5 p.m. on ESPN Plus, live from Mobile, Alabama. It is UL Monroe, 5-1 UL Monroe going to South Al to play the South Alabama Jaguars. I
Ooh.
don't know what South Alabama is.
No.
There's two teams. They are a Jekyll and Hyde team. Some weeks they look like they are going to score 50 points on literally anybody you put in front of them, and they're incredible. Other weeks you wonder why they're not an FCS. It doesn't make any sense. There's no rhyme or reason to it. They are 3-4. They have looked suspect all year. They did beat Troy 25-9 last week. Um, I think maybe Louisiana LSU might have reset the timeline here,
Mhm.
but they had two losses, two wins, two losses, and a win. Give me the Warhawks. I think this is ULM's year. Like they may just mess around and win the Sun Belt. I think they have a couple of games left to get bowl eligible, but them going from 2-10 and firing their coach to bowl eligible in a year is amazing.
Mhm.
And by the way, they're doing this with a coach that UAB did not want because they hired Trent Dilfer instead. So like a bunch of dummies. So Brian Vincent is doing amazing work down in Monroe. Um, I think ULM could get Arkansas State. Oh wait, no, they lose to Arkansas State every year. It's a very weird rivalry that they have.
Okay.
They've lost 15 in a row to Arkansas State. But give me ULM.
Wow. Okay.
Crappy, who
Okay.
you got?
ULM got my attention by beating Jimmy Madison. And after Jimmy Madison had been crushing everyone, um, yeah. So I'm gonna pick the Warhawks.
Yeah, I've got the Warhawks here too. They've been more consistent this season, so I think ULM this would get them to 6 wins. So this would get them bowl eligible.
Mhm.
So Warhawks win.
I think there's a potential here. Hear me out.
Yes.
That you could have the battle for Louisiana between ULL and ULM on November 30th for a shot to go to the Sun Belt Championship game. They are currently leading the Sun Belt West. What a weird season. Both of
That's
those teams are
fun.
usually bad.
That's fun.
And finally, Carla, it's time for our favorite segment of the week, which is how will the Big 12 eat itself this week?
Woo!
Um, I think we have a pretty clean answer to this. It's 3:30 on ESPN. BYU travels to Orlando to play UCF. The Mormons are going to Orlando, one of their favorite places on earth. That's a reference, and if you don't understand, look it up. BYU somehow favored by 2 in
Yeah.
Orlando. Fun
Yeah, it was
index
hard.
is 55.5. UCF almost got Iowa State. Iowa State got away with one last week. UCF has just kind of looked like good, not great.
Mhm.
But this feels like a trap. This feels like a trap. You're traveling across the country. You're far away from the Cougar tails. Can you get it done in a place you love? And I don't think the answer is yes. I think BYU loses here. And
Mhm.
they get their first loss to the Gus Bus, and UCF gets a big win at home, and the bounce house gets bouncier. Carla, who you got here?
So I do see this as a potential trap. Okay, because what do they
Yeah.
have on the schedule? What the Cougs have on the schedule the following week? It's the Holy War. So is this a trap game potentially? Here's my problem though with and why I still think the Cougs are going to win this game on the road. UCF has lost 4 straight. And
Yeah.
like the Knights are statistically good against the run. So maybe that's what this line is showing, because the line to me doesn't make a ton of sense here. Um, but BYU's biggest run threat is Jake Retzlaff. So I don't know, or like I said, maybe Vegas is concerned about the look ahead with the Holy War, but I think this game is close. I think UCF makes it interesting, but I don't see this one. I think BYU wins this game.
I'm as confused about the line as Carla. You said you were. I'm not sure what Vegas wants to do here. UCF has a great running game, one of the better running per game averages in the country. And they can play keep away with that. But if that's what Vegas is looking at, wouldn't the fun index be lower? I mean, I don't know. I think I feel like Brigham Young is going to be able to come across the country and win this tight game. Sure. Um, Covering the 2 point spread. Yeah, I think so. I think the Cougars going to win this one.
We also have Oklahoma State Baylor. Baylor getting a huge win in the Butt Bowl.
Mhm.
Like a stunning win. They went to Lubbock and took it to Texas Tech. It was absurd. Every time I look back at that game, I was like, why is Baylor still winning by 20? Why is that still happening? Speaking of Texas Tech, though,
Yes.
3:30 p.m. on Fox. Buckle up, kids. The fireworks factory is getting ready to get on fire again.
Here
Texas
we
Tech
go.
at TCU. TCU favored by 7. Fun index is 66.5.
Is that the highest fun index? Is that the highest fun index of the week? It might be.
It is.
There were a bunch like in the mid 60s, but that might be the best one.
Yeah, I think that one might be the highest. I'd have to go look again.
Okay.
But yeah, that one's pretty hot.
Mhm.
We have there was a no, we're gonna have to deal with this. So I don't see a 67.0. I don't see a 67.5. I don't see a 68.5. So yeah, I'm gonna take a guess this is one of the higher fun indexes of the
Okay.
weekend.
Okay.
Texas Tech at TCU. That should be a track meet. The actual opposite end of this, and speaking of the Holy War, Utah goes to Houston. Utah's favored by 3. The fun index is an absolutely brutal 36.5. A
Oh,
dichotomy of two. This
yes.
isn't
They're in the same conference.
a tale of two paths, really. Just wanted to point that out. Just, you have one game that's 66.5, one game's 36.5. There's one game you need to watch. There's one game you don't need to. Utah has no offense, none,
Yeah.
not a lick of an offense at this point.
And they just replaced the offensive coordinator like today. The old OC resigned, and they bumped up an offensive consultant to coordinator.
I mean, listen, Cam Rising is now Cam sitting, Cam
Yeah.
resting, Cam scooting. He's got a scooter now. So, but I saw him roll out on the field last week,
Mhm.
and I thought to myself, he might still play. He might do it.
Yeah.
Like it's been like that the entire time.
If he's got pads on, yeah.
Also, it's the Sunflower Cup, Kansas at Kansas State,
Mhm.
in Manhattan. K-State's favored by 10.
Ouch.
Hammer Kansas State.
Yeah.
Kansas has looked real bad this year. Hammer Kansas State. I'm not picking any of these games. I just wanted to point out some fun. There's some opportunities for the Big 10 to eat, or the Big 12 to eat itself this week. Carla, you had a segment last week of a different conference eating itself.
How will the SEC eat itself this week?
How will the SEC eat itself this week? How will it do it?
There are
mind,
a couple options.
There's one very good one.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the big boy games, though.
Okay.
Carla and Crappy.
Okay.
Let's talk about them.
We there were a couple games that I wanted to grab that were pre-Saturday games, but AJ covered them with his usual aplomb. These big boy games are all on Saturday. We start at noon on the American Broadcasting Company. Number 12 Notre Dame at not really at versus number 24 Navy. This is being held in MetLife Stadium in suburban New Jersey. Notre Dame is favored by 13. The AJ Fun Index is 52.5 points. Carla, what do you think?
My heart is obviously all in on Navy in this game.
Oh, yeah.
and I would love absolutely nothing more than for the Middies to upset the apple cart here.
Mhm.
But to beat Notre Dame, even in a quote unquote neutral-ish site
Yeah.
game, whatever, um, Navy offense has to figure out how to get around one of the top 5 scoring defenses in the nation.
Mhm.
Now, Navy's offense is real good. They're real good. I was kind of surprised to see that they were a top 4 scoring offense in the country. But this is full on strength, right? Between offense and defense here. If there's an opening for Navy, it's that statistically Notre Dame is not as great at stopping the run, but they're still in the top 30 in the country. So it's nothing to like slough at here. But if if Blake Horvath can get things going with his legs early, I think Navy can make this game interesting. Like I said, I'm all in on Navy, but I think Notre Dame figures out a way to win this game. But I really, really want Navy to win.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That almost goes without saying. AJ, what do you think?
I'm with you. And the game that I was actually keeping an eye on for Notre Dame and Navy was Georgia Tech, who Notre Dame played last
Mhm.
week. The big difference, and Notre Dame handled Georgia Tech easily. Georgia Tech only had 64 yards rushing. The difference here is Haynes King did not play in this game.
Mhm.
They had a backup quarterback, and they put it all on him. They only ran the ball 29 times, compared to the way they normally run the ball, which is usually like in the 40 to 45 range. And a lot of that is on Haynes King's legs. I think Navy, one, covers. Two, I think Navy comes out and gets a win here. I think Notre Dame is,
That'd be
while number
fantastic.
12 in the country,
Mhm.
they've not necessarily played anybody since they played Northern Illinois, since they lost Northern Illinois. The best
Mhm.
they've got is a win over number 15 Louisville. And even in that game, Notre Dame didn't look hot. They just
Mhm.
looked like, okay, we're going to go out and kind of trudge their way to a win. This is Navy's getting up for this one,
Mhm. Yeah.
even though it's in a neutral site. And again, I dislike the fact this is a neutral site game just because, one, play the game in Annapolis, you cowards. But you have a lot of Navy people, a lot of people from Notre Dame want to see Notre Dame Navy, so they play them in a bigger stadium. I think the big thing here is Louisville actually did run the ball relatively well. They had 131 yards rushing on 35 carries. They're averaging 3.7 yards per carry. And they tried to put a lot of it on their quarterback. They had 40. Tyler Schiff passed 41 times.
Mhm.
I think Navy does a better job here against Notre Dame than everybody else has. I think they keep it close. I'm just going to go ahead and pick the Middies to win. Maybe I'm wish casting here, but I'm picking the Middies to win.
I love it. I don't think there's any question the Navy has, and this is an odd thing to say. Speaking of bizarre world in college football, everything is weird. Navy has a better, more diverse offense than Notre Dame does. Um, and Notre Dame, they don't ask Riley Leonard to throw the ball much. They're going to run it. It's going to be physical stuff, and that's where they hang their hats. I think this is going to be a game until halftime, maybe even into the third quarter. I unfortunately I think the inevitability, the bigger bodies, they just the middies are going to get worn down. And Notre Dame will end Navy's undefeated run. Boy, that's not what I want to see. And if Navy could hang on into the fourth quarter, that would be amazing. Because then anything goes. But I see Notre Dame winning this game at noon on the Big Ten Network, because no one would have thought this was an interesting game when we were in the middle of the summer. Washington at number 13, Indiana. Indiana is favored by 7. The AJ Fun Index is 52.5 points. AJ, what do you think?
This is the game day game. Number one,
Mhm.
game day is going to Bloomington,
Yes,
which I
for
love
first time ever.
deeply.
First time ever.
No, it's not their first time. They've been there a
First time
couple
for
times.
college game day. No, they have not. No, just saw that today.
What was the game that they went to? What was the Indiana game they went to with? Was that Indiana at Ohio State? It was like a season opening game. at one point, and they basically it was like Corso was getting honored at the game. I thought game day went there before.
The ESPN says it's the first time they've been.
If ESPN says it's the first time, they probably know better than me. Anyways, Bloomington's going to be bananas for this game.
Yes, it will.
Indiana's going to win by like a lot. They are really, really good, and they are playing mean as hell on defense. Kurt Signetti said, "Google me, I win." That's it. That is his quote, not mine. And Pittsburgh boy continues to do well out in Bloomington. It's actually a fairly common story. Give me the Hoosiers to win.
Okay. Carla, what do you think?
So for me, there's a huge cloud hanging over this game, and that is, how does Indiana continue without Curtis Rourke? Because he is now out indefinitely, and yeah, backup Taven Jackson was solid in the second half last week, but how much of that was Nebraska being completely shell shocked at that point? I mean, you can't believe that the Huskers would have been down by that many points, and how much of that was just, we just got steamrolled and they were just kind of like, deer headlights trying to survive the game. And Jackson's going to face the top rated secondary in the conference. So backup's going to have himself a day against a really good defense here. But that being said, we're in the comfy confines of Bloomington, a game day visit. It's going to be amped and rocking. The Hoosiers are going to figure out a way to get this done. There's no way to pick against them in this game. They're going to figure out a way to get this done, and we're going to have 8-win Indiana by the end of the weekend.
Which means we are 1 win away from the famous home field shirt of 9-win Indiana, which was a goal. This has been a goal of the last 5-6 years of college football internet, is 9-win Indiana, and it looks like they're going to get there before November.
They should.
Actually, no, it's impossible for them to get there before November, but you get the point.
We do. Washington, I've been fascinated to watch Washington this season. Clearly, they are not what they were a year ago with a former Indiana quarterback. But it seems like they've taken up the role that Utah used to play in the Pac-12. It's the West Coast team that plays like a Big Ten school. They are physical. They run the ball, play great defense, strong up front, all that stuff. Indiana, I'm still, my brain is still struggling to process what Kurt Signetti has done in Bloomington. It is going to be different without Curtis Rourke, who had injury problems when he was a player in Athens for OU. But the defense that the Hoosiers have on the field right now, giving up just 13.7 points a game, and that's top 10 in the country. This may not be a pretty game. I'd be tempted to take the under. But last year's Washington versus this year's Indiana wouldn't have been an insanely fun matchup if Curtis Rourke was still playing. Unfortunately, this version of the Huskies, I don't think is going to be able to cope with what the Hoosiers are able to put on the field, especially defensively. And IU wins this one at home at 3:30 on CBS. Thank you. Number 20, Illinois, at number 1, Oregon. The Ducks are favored by 25. The AJ Fund Index is 54.5 points. Carla, what do you think?
Man, if this game was in Chambana,
that'd be fun.
I'd give some serious thought to taking Burton this one, but this Illinois defense is really going to be put to the test here against this Oregon offense. When I look at the numbers, I'm just not sure whether the Illini can fully slow down, get Dylan Gabriel in that Ducks offense. I think they can throw a speed bump, but and being an Autzen, I think Burton crew are going to make this really interesting for a while.
Right.
But the Ducks are going to get this win at home. Pull away in the second half. Let's go with this. I don't think Oregon covers, but Oregon's going to win by 2 scores.
Okay, that's fair. AJ?
Yeah, Oregon is, after some early struggles against Idaho and Boise State. Listen, when you play anybody from the state of Idaho, it's going to be a problem for you. I think they've gotten it rolling. obviously the Ohio State game notwithstanding,
Mhm.
I think they've gotten it to a point now where they understand what to do now.
Mhm.
They now have Dylan Gabriel fully operational. He understands the offense. He knows how to run it week in, week out now. I think early in the season, he was still kind of coming up to basically getting to chemistry with a lot of the receivers
Yeah,
because he's
that's a
coming in
great point.
fresh,
That's a
right?
great point.
Um, I am. I do not see a way. I think Illinois does. I think I'm with Carla. I think it's a 2-score game. I don't
Mhm.
think it's a 25-point loss.
Okay.
And if it is, buddy, that's sealing Oregon at the #1 spot.
Mhm.
If they go out and beat a number 20 very strong Illinois team by 25 at home,
Oof.
yeah, that's where you get that, like, you're #1 and you're not coming down.
Yeah. 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 Illinois is definitely a team on the rise. And as much as I don't like Burt, I have to give him credit for what he's been able to do, in Chambana. If he can maintain the trajectory that they are on, the Illini will be a team, that's going to be a problem, and for a while. Do they have the horses to keep up with Oregon right now? No, they do not. And the Ducks are going to win this one. I'd like the 2 scores, but not cover. I think that sounds about right. Also at 3:30 on ABC, number 21 Missouri at number 15 Alabama. Bama is favored by 13.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is 56.5. AJ, what do you make of this one? I struggled with this.
Alabama's offense has one option. It is throw the ball to Ryan Williams. That's it. That's the offense.
Yeah, pretty much.
And if you can do what Tennessee did last week, which is to take him out of the game at multiple points, you can win.
Mhm.
I think Alabama is quite mortal. In fact, more than mortal. They are very mortal. They are just straight up mortal this year. The problem is Brady Cook going to play?
Yeah.
He left during the game against Auburn last week. They did not look good without him. He came back in the second half. They came back and won the game. Missouri goes into Alabama. Listen, if they go into Alabama and they win, they are going to be calling for Kalen DeBoer's head tomorrow.
Yes.
Like, you're going to go back in time,
It's gonna be ugly.
and they're going to ask for it before the game. If they lose to Missouri, that is bad news bears for Alabama. And I think, as much as the talent has stayed at Alabama, it's very interesting now, kind of talking this out, of after the Georgia game, we're like, oh, it's Alabama. It's
Mhm.
Alabama. They're back to being Bama again. And now we're like, maybe they might lose to Missouri at home. Like, it's so this season has so many ups and downs. That Georgia win looks spectacular now.
Mhm.
But I think Alabama escapes with a win here, but Missouri keeps it way closer than 13.5.
Okay. Carla, what you got?
Yeah, my top note here in my notes is, how does Bama respond
Mhm.
here? Right? Because, like, crap, you told the story last week about how you anticipated Bama would put South Carolina in its place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then that absolutely didn't happen. And so does Bama make Mizzou their victim? Like, because, Mizzou, after like getting absolutely clobbered by
Mhm.
Texas A&M a couple weeks ago, they went up and mopped up UMass. Also, low key, Mizzou had to go to UMass. That was a thing that happened. But then struggled last week at Auburn
Mhm.
again. But a lot of that was losing Brady Cook. So there's the question of whether Cook plays. The Mizzou defense is good, and statistically, the Mizzou secondary is one of the best in the conference. So Jalen Milroe and company could be tested
Mhm.
here. I just don't know if Brady Cook's not playing this game, Bama's gonna win. It's gonna be an ugly, ugly game. I as much as I really, really want to pick Missouri here, the game is in the loose. Don't know about Brady Cook.
Mhm.
I'm gonna take the Tide at home here.
Okay. I wanted to mention one more time that we are recording this a day earlier than we usually do, so we don't have quite as much information as we might, recording this on a Tuesday evening. So The question about Brady Cook is absolutely legit, and could make a big difference here, or it could not. Missouri has just one loss in the conference, although they have looked not great. You'll recall that they needed overtime to beat Vandy, although that wasn't the case for Alabama. And they have a relatively easy path for the rest of the season, with the exception of this game. I don't know what Alabama's going to do, what they're going to be. Carla, you mentioned this in the story that I told about the guy in the Alabama shirt, and us thinking that they were going to go hammer South Carolina, and then they almost lost. So if they follow that pattern again, Missouri with Brady Cook, Missouri is good enough to beat them at home. I'm not. I'm kind of working this out in my head as we're talking about this. Alabama, there's something about a 3-loss Alabama that just doesn't compute. And this may change, I think, next week when they have to play at LSU. That my brain might accept it at that point. For now, though, I think, and probably even if Brady Cook is playing, I think Alabama's gonna eke this one out at home. At 4:15.
Real quick on the Alabama thing,
please.
Alabama is 9 points away from a 4-game losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
They almost lost it. Like, they almost lost to Georgia. There was a pick in the end zone to seal it,
to save it.
To save it, but almost lost at home to Georgia. They lost to Vandy. Then they almost lost twice to South Carolina, and then they lost to Tennessee. There is a not hard timeline to get to where Alabama has 4 straight losses. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, and that's I'm struggling with this because the times that I've watched Alabama play, Jalen Milrose is still scary, and he throws a better ball than he did last year. It's a hard thing that I'm having a hard time processing. As I said, when we talk about the next game at LSU, maybe I'll have an easier time processing it by then. I don't know. We'll see. 4:15 on the SEC network, number 5 Texas at, my notes say, holy crap, they're ranked number 25 Vanderbilt. The Horns are favored by 18.5 points. And the AJ Fun Index is 53.5. AJ, what do you think?
I want so much Vandy to win this game.
I know.
I want them to have to pay another fine. I want them to have to buy goalposts again. I want so much of this. I want them to win. Oh, I don't see it. I'm sorry. I don't see it. I think Texas actually had, this is the thing about because they played Vandy after the Georgia game, and it was the letdown game.
Yes, that's right.
Texas's defense looked somewhat soft in the middle. The line they had last year was incredible, and those guys are now playing on Sundays. So they're a little bit softer in the middle. Can Vandy take advantage of that? Can Diego Pavia do that? Honestly, though, at this point, if Vandy doesn't win this game, I won't be disappointed. I'll be sad, obviously. But I need them to save up that one magical win for later this year when they go to Auburn. I need them to save it up so that Diego Pavia gets the full trifecta and is the scourge of Hugh Freeze's dreams. I need that, okay? So I think they can get one more win later on in their schedule. It would be hilarious if it was Tennessee. I don't think it's this week. I think Texas is going to try and go out and prove that they still belong.
Okay.
In a way that Bama just didn't. South Carolina came in and turned them inside out. I think Texas wants to go on the road and prove oh, by the way, this is still Vandy. Don't get it twisted. We're all having a great time. Stop it. Right. The challenge is is Quinn Ewers fully healthy?
Did not
To
look it.
actually,
Did not
he
look
did
it
not
last
look
weekend.
did not look fully healthy against Georgia. Did Georgia find something in Texas's blocking scheme that Vandy can take advantage of?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know that Vandy's got the dudes for that, the way Georgia has dudes for that.
Yes.
I regret to inform you that I think the Horns are going to win.
Okay. Okay.
It's
Carla?
still horns down. It's still horns down. But I
Absolutely.
think the Horns are going to win.
All day, every day. Carla, what's going to happen in Nashville on
Yeah, well,
Saturday?
funny thing is that I'll be at church that day, so I'll be right across the street from this game as it's
Oh,
happening.
man.
But
Parking going to be trash, though.
Parking's going to be rough. Go early.
yeah,
That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
because we sell our parking lot, so
How many people wearing cowboy boots who don't understand how cowboy boots work are going to be at this game cheering on Texas?
well, it's both sides.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That's a
You
good
know
point.
what?
That's a good point.
Like, you're not going to be able to tell the tour. How many guys? How many guys convinced their fiancés to have their bachelorette party
Mhm.
this weekend in Nashville so they could go to the Texas Vandy game and like, oh, no, babe, I'm here for you. No,
Honey, you do your thing during the afternoon.
You go out with your friends, but I'll be here for you. I'm just, maybe while you're having fun with your friends, I'm gonna go to the game. You text me if you need
do
me,
something. Yeah,
something like
I'll
that.
I'll kill the time.
I'll kill some time. It'll be fine. Do we think that happened?
I'm only laughing because it's actually plausible. Like living in Nashville, it's totally plausible.
Guaranteeing that is going to happen at some point this Saturday.
But like, here's the thing that I do love about this game is the fact that like Nashville is kind of rallying around Vanderbilt right now. And I know that like the tickets for this game were already like sold out a long time ago, but I'm actually somewhat optimistic here that the stadium isn't going to be 80% Texas fans. Which is a good thing for Vandy. It's a good thing for Nashville. You know, Andrew talked with us about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So my big question here is, okay, how does Sark get his team ready to play this game? Right? Because when you see the name Vanderbilt on the schedule, we're talking about reputations, right? We're struggling with that in the Big Ten right now. What's Vandy's reputation? They're the welcome mat of the SEC. They have been forever, right? And so you have a Horns team that got absolutely embarrassed in the first half this week. And now they have to get on a plane and go to Vanderbilt. And there's one thing that we know for sure. Diego and his side are not going to be intimidated by this game. Right. They've showed that to us time and time again. Texas needs to be on guard here. The Horns, clearly the better team, should win this game. But if you had to ask me which team has the momentum entering this game, it's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt 100% has the momentum entering this game. And is that enough to pull off another massive upset? Dear God, I hope so, but I don't think so. I think I'm going to go with my head here and say Texas wins this game. But man, Vandy's going to keep this interesting for a while. And I think the cowboy boots wearing the burnt orange might be sweating a little bit later into the evening than they had originally anticipated.
I would love to be able to shout about Nashville is where power programs go to die. And I suppose if Texas rebounds the way Alabama rebounded, this could be a game that would be much more interesting than you would expect. I would love to pick another Diego Pavia miracle. The next game is Auburn, right? That's the one we're pointing to? Is that correct?
I don't remember.
Does anybody know, AJ?
I'm looking very quickly. I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm trying. There's so many things happening here.
There's
the
all kinds of
ESPN
things
website
happening.
is not helping me. It is next week. It is
next week? Okay.
All right. Listen, we don't need a letdown look ahead sandwich here. Okay.
Yes, I agree. And next week we can call the show the Diego episode and all the things. Vandy's not going to shock the world this week. They're going to play Texas tough.
We
They're going to
still
play
won it
Texas
though.
tough. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I am all in on the Commodores. But I think Texas is going to rebound from their loss in a better fashion than Alabama has rebounded from its losses. And they will win this one in Nashville.
Hey,
Um,
who has more passing yards? Diego Pavia or Quinn Ewers?
I know the answer to this because I looked it
I'm
up.
gonna bet Pavia.
That is correct, by 290 yards.
Okay,
How many completions do each of them have?
do not know.
I don't know that one.
Pavia has 102, Quinn Ewers has 103. How many attempts do each of them have?
I would think Pavia has way more attempts.
Pavia has three more attempts,
Three.
154
Okay,
to 151.
that's not
They've each
really
thrown
way more.
they've each thrown 11 touchdowns, and Pavia has three less picks. So for all of that, like, Quinn Ewers is a great quarterback. He's gonna go the first round. Go check on my boy Diego. Okay. Also, Diego Pavia has more rushing yards than the leading rusher for Texas. Just throwing
But
that
Um,
out
it's
there.
not but it's not an equal comparison.
Is it though?
well,
Both. Oh well, sorry. Texas
Ewers
played
missed two
out,
games.
true.
but it's the
That's
same
true.
number. That's true. I'll
That's
I'll
true.
I'll give you that.
Ewers
It's I
missed two
was
games.
I was going based on just number of attempts and completions.
Yeah.
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 It's the same. It's the same number. Diego's just played two more games. So hey,
Hmm.
listen, it's gonna be fun, and we're still rooting for Vandy. That's
And
all.
we're going to talk about Vandy next week. I guarantee you guys.
Absolutely.
Um,
Ranked or
Mm-hmm.
not, doesn't matter. We're talking that game.
At 7:30 p.m. on Saturday on ABC. Perhaps this is a game that AJ was referencing with the SEC eating its young. Number 8 LSU at number 14 Texas A&M. TAMU is favored by 2.5 points. When I put this together this afternoon, the AJ Fun Index is 53.5. These are the undefeated teams in the SEC in conference. AJ, what do you think?
Since losing to Notre Dame,
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M has gone on a hell of a run.
Mm-hmm.
They have just handled business very nonchalantly, just out here handling business. And the beatdown of Missouri when they were number 9 Missouri, it with a full health Brady Cook was kind of incredible.
Was
Um, and honestly, Texas A&M they got LSU this week, and then they've got uh Texas on Thanksgiving to finish the season.
there is that.
Sorry, it's the Saturday after. They don't play on Thanksgiving, which is rude. But I this is the sort of thing that I am Texas A&M has an opportunity to really turn it around all the way here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think because they're playing this at home and they're not playing this in Death Valley. Obviously, we could take the Death Valley Magic off the table.
Yep.
I think Texas A&M comes out and gets a statement win, and Brian Kelly has one of those brain fart games where he turns purple by the end of it. He's actually going to turn. Sorry, he's going to turn maroon, and he will look like a Texas A&M uniform. Give me the Aggies to win here.
Carla, what do you think?
I, honestly, I don't know because like LSU keeps winning games that we think they're going to be tested in. They did it last week at Arkansas.
Mhm.
Garrett Nussmeier is a top 10 passer in the nation. And defensively, if you look at statistics, the Aggies are in the middle of the pack in that defensive category. So you have to believe Nussmeier is going to find some lanes. Likewise, statistically, LSU is just absolutely dreadful in all aspects of defense. They're near the bottom of the SEC in every defensive category, yet they just keep winning football games.
Yes.
The Aggies are going to try to run the football, and if they can get Le'Veon Moss in that ground game going, playing in College Station, I want to give the upper hand to the home team, but I just don't know. It feels so risky right now to pick against the Tigers because they just keep finding ways to win. And knowing that Bama is coming to Death Valley the following week,
Mhm.
give me the Tigers. Ick.
Mhm. As I said, these are the teams that are leading the SEC to this point of the season. They're both undefeated in the conference. They both recovered from a rough opening game loss. And while neither team has been close to being perfect, the records in the conference show that they've both figured something out. Um, A&M has also figured out its quarterback thing. They brought back their opening game starter after an injury and a little experimentation, and that is we referenced Death Valley and what a place to play that is, and that is a situation we're going to talk about next week when Alabama goes there, I'm sure. A&M is a freaky place to play as well. Cult like, very big,
No,
very
it's
loud.
just a cult. You don't need to add like to that statement. It's
Thank you.
just a
You're
cult.
exactly that is exactly correct.
The cult. It's
I
fine.
am going
We
to
love you,
give
Miss Rev.
I am giving the Aggies the edge because they're at home in this one. And I feel like they've maybe been a little more consistent. I don't know. But I think Texas A&M is going to keep that undefeated record for one more week. We have one more big boy game to talk about at 7:30 p.m. on the National Broadcasting Company, Big Ten Saturday night. Number 3 Penn State at Wisconsin. The Lions are favored by 6.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is a Big Ten proud 47.5 points. I'm going to go first. And this is a tricky game. As I've maintained through the season, Penn State is a very, very good team. If not as consistent as you'd like to see. The offense has opened up. Drew is making good decisions. Tyler Warren is a beast. And the Bowling Green game aside, they have one of the best defenses in the country. They've given up just 14 points a game. The variable here is Wisconsin. And they had a rough patch kind of the beginning of the season. Lost to USC, which, and lost to Alabama, which, okay. Although that becomes more, as the season goes on. Since then, they've picked up the pace, especially defensively. In the last 3 games, granted, against Purdue, Rutgers, and Northwestern, they've given up just 13 points total of those 3 games.
16.
16? Thank you.
16.
Thank you. It is a huge improvement. The Badgers haven't faced this kind of offensive pressure since the Bama game. This game will be closer than that one was. Penn State will get out of Madison with the win. But Carla, they're going to make you work for it the whole time. AJ, tell us what you think about this one. We'll give Carla the last word.
This game starts at 7:30. I'm going to need you to go ahead and wait. If you're a Penn State fan, I need you to wait until about 9 p.m. to turn this game on, because Penn State doesn't show up until halftime.
You're right.
It has been something all season long that you just watch this just mess of a first half every game they've played. And even games where you're like, oh, surely they're going to get it together. No. So we're just going to wait until this. We're going to make all of our fans have just absolute internal digestion problems until halftime. And then during halftime, they go, all right, guys, run the touchdown plays. And then they go out and they score 35 points in the second half and they win. It's a very stupid way to play football. You could do that in the first half too. I don't know, Jimmy. I don't listen. I'm not a professional football coach. I don't get paid like $1 bazillion a year to do this. My runways are long down here in Pittsburgh. What I'm saying is, I need you to understand you could do that in the first half too. Okay. It's either that or every team knows what to do against Penn State. And they're in at halftime, they're actually making proper adjustments at halftime and coming out and dealing with whatever defense is being put in front of them. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, that's scary, but it's scary for other teams to know that they're going to have to figure out ways to beat Penn State long term, and have to keep that momentum going. I just need to see if Penn State's going to win this game. They need to win it handily. Wisconsin is good, not great. They are not the Wisconsin of old. They are not scary Wisconsin. They are perfectly fine Wisconsin. This team lost to USC too. So I'm taking Penn State. I just need to see Penn State do more in the first and second quarter than they have in this entire season. Carla, take us home.
Carla?
So do AP pollsters, apparently.
Yeah.
So we're talking about places that are not fun to play after dark. Oh, hi, Madison, Wisconsin.
Yes.
No fun to play at all. And the Badgers have looked really good in their last 3 games. They did exactly what you're supposed to do against that tier of opponent, right? Defensively, Wisconsin pretty good against the pass, which means that the Penn State offense is probably going to be a little bit more one-dimensional. In this case, though, that might actually work in the Knits' favor, because running the football tends to be where the Knits' offense gets its mojo from. So this game absolutely needs to be on offense, needs to be a heavy dose of Nick Singleton and Key Allen and Tyler Warren. Defensively, Penn State needs to keep the Badgers' ground attack and Tawi Walker in their sights. Good news there, Wisconsin not a huge threat in the air, which is where the Penn State defense has really struggled as of late. So I think if the Penn State defense can key in on that ground game, the Penn State offense can get its ground game going. The Knits win this football game, but here we are again for the whatever week in a row, another uncomfortable Saturday evening. But the Knits are going to win and set up the showdown we're waiting for next week.
Another game we might mention
Maybe.
when we get to next week's
Isn't
show.
that college football season for most fans? Uncomfortable Saturday evenings, Wednesday evenings, or whatever. It's just I'm going to sit here for 3 hours and be uncomfortable.
That's another T-shirt. Uncomfortable Saturday evenings.
It's time for an uncomfortable Saturday evening, everybody.
I would get that in scarlet and gray and wear it proudly. Boys and girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube and or on the show's Facebook page. I would encourage you to watch twice. And you may recall from a year ago and from all of the previous shows this year that you can read us on our Substack. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. Be sure to come back next week. We've got a lot of good stuff to talk about next week. So just come back. Don't worry about how right
What's
or
happening?
wrong.
What could happen next week?
Nothing.
It's just Vandy Auburn week. That's it. That's
Vandy
all.
Auburn week and a couple other things. Final thoughts, AJ. Anything else you're looking for this weekend?
Like I said, a bunch of mini rivalries, some games of note. The oldest rivalry in the South, North Carolina, Virginia, is on the CW at noon. Also, later on that day, we have Wake Forest at Stanford because, Stanford is woke. And we also have
Wake versus woke? Is that with
Wake versus woke? That's right. Wake versus woke. We'll take that one. Put it on a t-shirt. 7 p.m. on ESPN, a game that most people would talk about because they're name brand helmet games. Florida State Miami is this week. We didn't talk about it at all. Why? Because Florida State sucks. That's why. Oh my God. What if this is the week they foe? What if this is the week they foe? Oh no.
I thank you for at least bringing it up right now because then we're covered. We've got it covered.
We've got it covered. Also, 7:30 p.m. on Big Ten Network. We got Little Brother versus Big Brother. Michigan State, Michigan is this week. We didn't talk about that one either. Why?
I mentioned in my look back, and Ghost Party. I think Michigan State's winning that game.
And finally, at 11:59 p.m., as God intended, Eastern Time, Nevada at Hawaii. Nevada is favored by 2.5. I don't care. Go Bows. They're on the Big Island. It's time for a big win. Let's go.
Hell yes. I'm going to be getting texts from AJ Kuftick in the middle of the night.
That's right. You're getting a 2 a.m. text of people in Hawaiian shirts. Holler at your boy.
Carla, what are your final thoughts?
Well, other than, uncomfortable Saturday nights, I got 2 games. And one of them is on a Friday night because, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a true Big Ten After Dark sighting as Rutgers goes to USC. Kick on that game, 11 p.m. Eastern on Fox on Friday night. So that's a game that's happening. So, yes, this means you have to caffeinate 2 nights because we already put another game on Friday night that you have to watch. UNLV Boise is also kicks an hour and a half ahead of that. So that's actually nice timing.
It's a half hour beforehand. These games are going at the same time, baby. Double screening at 11 p.m. Let's go.
Let's go on a Friday night. Love it. And I have to do this one. We didn't mention it in the group of five stuff, and I have to mention this one for sentimental reasons. 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. In the Sun Belt, we have Georgia State going to Appy State.
Right, I forgot.
That is Appy State's first home game since everything happened with Hurricane Helene. So you have to believe that that atmosphere is going to be something to remember. So go Mountaineers in that game. It should be a good football game too.
I would point out a friend of the show, a Bulletpalooza guest, Kelly Craig. She inspects buildings, properties that have been through some kind of damage for a living. And she spent a couple days in Boone last week. Visited the Appy State souvenir shop. With this in mind, Avocado, also friend of the show, and her son, your younger son, had a hockey tournament in Ann Arbor over the weekend. Yes. She showed up in Ann Arbor with a Penn State zip hoodie covering partially an App State t-shirt in Ann Arbor. Unfortunately, she said no one admitted to noticing her shirt. I'm sure someone did notice.
Cowards, absolute cowards in Ann Arbor.
Yes, but I wanted to give Kelly total credit for that because that was a fantastic move.
Yes, definitely a fantastic move, and go Mountaineers, go win that football game.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, Georgia State, you have to lose this game. You just got to take this L. I'm real sorry about it. Speaking of taking L's, last week for the first time in recent memory, the number one team in FBS, the number one team in FCS, and the number one team in D2 all lost on the same day. Texas loses to Georgia.
Right.
South Dakota State loses to North Dakota State. Yes. In an absolute, listen, Big Ten football is definitely alive in the Dakotas because holy crap, that was a terrible offensive game. It was just defense.
Rock fight.
Absolute rock fight. And Harding loses to Ouachita Baptist 17-13 in Arkansas. That is a big deal. So yeah, all the number one teams lost. This game, this is a great chaotic year. We love to see it. Let's keep it going. Oregon lose to Illinois. Just do it for fun. For fun in games. Let's do it.
Carla, we both interrupted you. What do you have anything else?
No, those are my two games.
Okay. I have a few that I'm going to be paying attention to on Saturday. Obviously, Ohio State. If the Buckeyes aren't looking ahead to the trip to Happy Valley next weekend, it should handle the Huskers pretty easily on Big Noon. I will be watching to see how the defense recovers from a shaky game at Oregon. OU hosts Buffalo. You can see that game at noon on CBSSN, the network of champions. The Carnegie Mellon Tartans will get a look. We'll look to get right at 1 p.m. Saturday when they visit the Glassline Tanks of Old Latrobe and St. Vinny College. And I can't help but mention this one because this is right down the street from my house. Thursday. Pitt hosts Syracuse. That game carries a 61.5 AJ Fun index. And I just get the sense Pitt doesn't play defense. Syracuse plays a little defense. And their old Ohio State quarterback has been just slinging the ball. That's going to be a fun one. So, if you don't have anything else to do on Thursday, give that one a look.
I forgot one game.
Please.
Welcome back to the NEC, Robert Morris. Robert Morris hosts St. Francis. If you know anything at all about old NEC rivalries, this is one of the biggest. That game is at 2 p.m. Okay. I do not see TV listed because it's the NEC. So check NEC Front Row. That's a thing. So check the NEC website. Also look up the radio call to hear our friend Chris Shevlin call that game. But yes, that's a big time rivalry. Robert Morris has been on a roll. I think they're 4-2 right now. So that would be a game that would continue them up because there's an FCS bowl, there's an FCS playoff berth here if they keep winning. So go Bobby Mom.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, St. Francis, get an original name, dorks. Don't ask about another Robert Morris. We don't recognize.
They don't exist anymore.
Let's go. We got the only Robert Morris. That's right.
What happened?
No, they got bought.
They got bought. That's right. Okay. We have equity people buying universities. Get wrecked. Old Robert Morris. Get a unique name, St. Francis. You're not even the most unique St. Francis in your own division.
No.
Get wrecked.
Nope.
No.
SFPA.
SFPA. Let's go, Bobby Moe.
Go Bobby Moe. Boys and girls, that's all we have for you. AJ, thank you for being here. We always appreciate your input. Carla, thank you as always.
Thank you.
I understand you have like 3 hours of stuff to do before you get to go to bed tonight. So I'm
What happens when you go on a trip and go to a conference, you come back and it's like, oh, all of the things I didn't do last week.
yeah, vacations. You need a vacation from your vacation.
From your vacation. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Guys, thank you for watching, for listening, for reading, for doing all of the things that you do for our show. We hope you have a great college football weekend. We hope your teams do well, unless you live in Ann Arbor, and then Sparty's going to get you. Cheers, everybody. We will see you back here next week.